Hi, and welcome to Santa Barbara Newsmakers. I'm your host, Jerry Roberts. Today's program is part of our special series of interviews with the candidates to be Santa Barbara's next mayor. Our guest today is City Council member Cathy Murillo, the first Latina ever elected to the council. She grew up in East Los Angeles and attended UC Santa Barbara, where she graduated with a degree in dramatic art. After working for campus radio station KCSB and stints at the LA Times and the Independent, she was first elected citywide in 2011, then re-elected to council in 2015 to represent District 3 on the west side under Santa Barbara's new district election system. Welcome, and thank you for coming, Cathy.
I'm so pleased to be here, Jerry. Thank you.
So this looks like a real wide open race. We have 5 candidates, and my analysis is it's going to depend on whoever has the strongest political base. Mm-hmm. You are the Democratic Party machine candidate, so I would say you have the strongest base, correct?
Well, machine sounds negative. I'm proud of my party affiliation, and yes, I will have volunteers from the party, but I have my own volunteers from the 2 times that I ran in the past.
But it is true that the party endorsed very early, I think in April, in order to get their chosen candidate, and that you benefited from that.
Yes, sir. Well, it's taken all this year to raise the money that I've raised. I've had 3 parties and fundraisers already. I've been walking precincts since May. So yes, I think the thinking was endorse early and let that person build their campaign going forward. You want to be strong in the summer and the fall.
All right. Let's talk about some of the issues in the race. And I want to start by just showing our viewers a little slide that we excerpted from the city charter, which specifies exactly what the powers of the mayor are, this office that we're talking so much about. 1, they get to wield the gavel at city council meetings. 2, they're actually allowed to vote, although they have no veto power.
Right.
Official head of the city for all ceremonial purposes, so a lot of ribbon cuttings and funerals. And then I think these last 2 things are really the nut of it. Primary responsibility for interpreting the policies, programs, and needs of the city government to the people, and may inform the people of any change in policy and program. So we have really a strong chief administrator form of government.
That's right.
So it seems to me, given those specific powers, which are pretty weak, the strength of the mayor has to come from wielding the bully pulpit, from being able to commit. So as we go, I'd like you to talk about how your specific skills align with that.
Well, running the meetings is very important, but the last 2 that you say are weak, that means those 2, how I interpreted that was the mayor in the community. And I am the city council member who has redefined what it means to be on the city council, Jerry. If the MTD has a workshop about bus service, I'm there. If a local school has a workshop or a party for Cinco de Mayo, I'm there. I go to meetings. I don't think they're boring. I was a journalist, as you said in the opening. So government is fascinating to me. I love going to meetings. I love reading EIRs. But specifically, I'm in the community, and the mayor should be the face of the city.
Yeah, agreed. And I agree. It's said that you would attend the opening of an envelope, Cathy. I'm sure that may or may not be true. And
I get a lot of letters at City Hall, and I open them up.
And it's also true that you used to be an honest journalist, and now that you've gone to the dark side, but we're not going to hold that against you.
Up to interpretation.
You're a newsmaker. All right, let's talk about housing a little bit. I want to read this little excerpt from, there was an op-ed on Newshawk recently by my friend Randy Alcorn. He says, "There is no housing crisis in Santa Barbara, and there is no shortage of affordable housing. What there is are too many people who want to live here for a price they can afford, and there are the forces of greed, all too eager to profit by building a few affordable units along with many more new market rate units. If Santa Barbara housing is unaffordable, why are houses selling quickly at or near full asking price? Who's buying them? People who can afford them. That's who." You agree with that, don't you?
I respectfully disagree with Mr. Alcorn. We do have a housing shortage. Jerry, we're not saying that we will build housing for everyone. but our housing programs are making a good effort. Our city housing authority is the finest in the country. It wins awards, and that's capital A affordable. That means that's housing for low-income people. And the effort in the dense housing program, our AUD, average unit size density incentive program, is really to build some rentals. And the density size means that they're smaller.
They're getting around zoning regulations.
But they're smaller because it's a more efficient use of space. So that's a positive thing. And we put them on transportation corridors. I get it. Mr. Elkhorn perhaps doesn't want to see anything else built in the city. We're trying to be very careful where we put things.
A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people do want to preserve things.
I'm very sensitive to overdevelopment, and that's why the AUD was looking at these specific areas where the new housing would go.
But as the AUD has come on, I think it's fair to say people have been a little bit shocked, both at the number of units that have already been approved or been in the pipeline, as well as the rents, which are over 3,000.
Unfortunately.
So why is that program not a failure?
One of the first projects that got built is a luxury apartment complex, the Mark, on Upper State Street. It had a big footprint so they could put a swimming pool and other amenities, and so those rents are higher. The rents from the other projects, there's one on Milpa Street near Ortega. That's not going to be.
How much are they going to be?
I'm not sure, but I know it's not going to be as much as the Mark. We're being sensitive to building too much. Yeah.
Well, there was the council voted this week, and again, that'll be sometime in August because we're going to be tape delayed on this, but to impose some modifications on the AUD program. You voted against that, did you not? Why?
Jerry, I serve on the Housing Task Force. That's a subcommittee of city council members, planning commissioners, and one housing authority commissioner. And what we've been doing for several months is fixing the AUD and making changes to it. So the article, I think, wasn't clear enough that I did support changes, adding parking to a 3-bedroom unit, et cetera. And excluding mobile home parks. We don't want those to change into an AUD project, kick the people out. Okay, so we've done some changes already. The cap I was concerned about because now
What is the cap?
Okay, it's 125 units annually on AUD projects. But right now we're trying to bring housing to State Street, right? We have the empty storefronts and empty buildings, and architects are coming together. There's a charrette process. It's scheduled for October 21st. Be there, folks. And we're looking at changing, in fact, the Macy's building, the 2 top floors into housing. So it would be better to have some room. I think we could fit 50 or 60 units onto the Macy's property, but with this cap, it'll be difficult for a commercial property owner to get together the capital, to design the project, to go through the application process if they don't know they're going to have a friendly approval somewhere, if they're not going to have cooperation within the process.
So the vote to change the AUD or the current regulations was 5-2. You voted against. So just so I'm clear, so your objection to that, which the ordinance that passed the council was the cap specifically. You want to build more units.
Right. We need to take the focus away from building AUD in the neighborhoods and put it on State Street. That's a movement that's happening right now. So it fits everybody's needs. We still get new rental units. They're downtown, so they revitalize the downtown. It addresses the empty buildings, and we get some housing. So it's all kind of positive.
So why not make the cap 125 and just do the Macy's project as a special project that's exempt from that? Why object to the overall cap?
The day that we're taping this vote was 2 days ago. And so we're still now looking at what do we do with that cap? Maybe we'll make a different cap for downtown. And that's a solution that we haven't talked about, but I hope we do.
All right, let's talk about not AUDs, but ADUs. I mean, why can't you find some other initials?
Accessory dwelling unit. You could just say granny flat or second
granny
unit.
flats.
Yeah.
What is the ADU program? Tell us.
It's a mandate from the state to make it much easier for a homeowner or a property owner to add a second unit on their single family home property. So there. So, something above
And
the
these
garage.
I mean, the city's flooded with applications to do this. The planning department is feeling overworked that they in trying to get all these approved.
They're
because
overworked for other reasons, but yes, there's been, I think, 150, 180 applications come in when we've only approved 16 or 20 like in the last 10 years or something. So people are excited about adding housing that way. And if there's parking off street, to me, the best second unit projects will have a nice long driveway where everybody can take their car off the street. To me, Jerry, people feel crowded when there's too much traffic and too many cars, when there's parking congestion.
So, as you say, it's a state mandate. So the council, I mean, the city really has no choice.
We have a little bit of authority to tweak it around the edges, and I think we're looking at making sure it doesn't affect historic resources. We have a lot of beautiful old buildings and areas that we don't want to impact, and then also in the high fire zones. You don't want to add too much density where people are evacuating, and we've had so many fires. That's something that we're considering.
So specifically, what will the council do, or what will you propose as mayor the council do to ensure that the granny units don't overwhelm the neighborhood?
Well, we have so many people in the city of Santa Barbara who are watchdogging what we do in terms of land use, that, we're holding meetings, planning staff is looking at it. Staff will come up with a draft and we'll all come to the table and contribute our ideas.
All right, let's talk about one more quasi-housing issue. Who is Max Mironoff? Who is that?
I don't know.
He's the fella who came before council because he wanted to have his vacation rental
that fellow, yes.
project
Yeah.
approved, and was shut down, even though he'd gone through all of the process, a very lengthy permitting process, even though he'd been operating under the rules for all these many years. What is wrong with a homeowner being able to rent out their unit on a short-term basis, or if they're dwelling in the same property? It really seems to me you're taking away private property rights. It's a government taking, is it not?
No. That particular project, Jerry, had parking issues, and the city council made a finding based on parking, which is legitimate, and we honored what the neighborhood could bear in terms of parking. No, people don't have absolute property rights all the time. Especially with vacation rentals. Our zoning says residential uses in residentially zoned areas, and two reasons why short-term rentals don't work for me. One, they take long-term rentals, apartments, houses off the market to be a hotel room instead of it being a place for someone to live and work in Santa Barbara.
Cathy,
Second is thank you, is neighborhood compatibility. There are people who don't like Airbnbs next to them. Some people are nice, they come, they're quiet, and other people come and they party,
I know, but I know a lot of people. I name no names, but maybe they go on vacation 2 or 3 weeks a year. There's no way they're going to rent their property for long term. I think that's a totally fallacious argument. What data is there to back up the argument that there's going to be more long-term rentals made available by doing away with vacation rentals? All these people have been operating under the rules for years. The city's been getting revenue from it, which it now is not only losing, but now you have to put more money into policing it.
I acknowledge that the city allowed short-term rentals to go on. We collected business fees and bed tax, and that happened before I came onto the council. But let me say that I was the city council member that said, we've allowed this to go on for so long, we need to give a nice long period for them to get out of it and divest. People had bought homes, people had fixed up the homes, and so I wanted to give them a nice long period to get out, to divest. We ended up doing 18 months. It goes back to the housing shortage.
Isn't the fact that this is just being done on behalf of the hotel owners and the tourist industry?
I can tell you sitting right here, I've never been lobbied by a hotel person. I think you're just playing devil's advocate too, because it's obvious.
You are running for mayor, I believe.
It's really obvious if this house is not being rented out as a hotel room, they're gonna
No, I'm talking
rent
about
it out for
somebody who
people to
lives
live
there.
there.
Somebody who lives there, they go away for
Oh.
3 or 4 weeks. Why can't they rent it out as a vacation rental? They're not allowed to do that anymore. You got guys coming around snooping, seeing what kind of shampoo and soap you use to make sure you don't have any guests in there.
City staff told us that home sharing is too difficult to enforce. So people will say they're home sharing, but they're really just turning the whole house into a vacation rental. That would require an enforcement person snooping. Are you the owner? Do you live here? Can I see your ID? Are you the guests? That's not going to work, Jerry. We
right.
need the housing.
All right, let's leave that one there. Let's talk about State Street a little bit, which you brought up a little bit earlier. How would you describe the current economic and physical conditions of downtown State Street?
I go to State Street and I like it. And I eat food down there and I walk around, and maybe I have a higher tolerance for street people than some people do. But I think it's a political drumbeat right now that State Street is falling apart, that it's abysmal. I heard somebody say that. No. Over the 4th of July holiday, a lot of visitors, a lot of families, they go down there and they eat ice cream and they shop. They go to movies, right? That's a big draw downtown. Fiesta was happening. I'm not saying we don't need to address our problems, but State Street is still the heartbeat of the city, and it doesn't help thriving businesses on State Street now to say negative things about it, and I won't. I'm optimistic. I know that bringing housing and trusting the downtown organization to see through its retail study that it did, they have ideas. They said that there needs to be better merchandising with some of the stores. That's not my area
There's a lot of vacancies,
expertise.
A lot of vacant storefronts.
So this is one of the things that I did personally. I got in touch with a fine art gallery, put them together with some commercial property owners, and where there's an empty storefront, they're putting fine art in the window. Great idea, right? It looks beautiful.
But there's dozens of them. There's dozens of storefronts. You're going to do that with all of them, and you know, there's no revenue coming to us for that. In terms
Don't we
of
like the
sales
idea
tax.
housing? Don't we love the idea of housing?
Talk about
downtown?
that a little bit more. So you want to take the Macy's building and convert it to non-affordable housing? I mean, how are you going to do that?
Let's talk
How's
about that
gonna
for
work?
one
How's
instant.
that going to work?
Let's talk about market rate housing. So for 40 years, we have not built any apartment complexes, right? None, very few. And so now we're getting some, and they're brand new. Of course they're market rate, Jerry. And over time they'll age.
So market rate is $3,400 a month.
No. That's the luxury rate. Let's be honest. We can't be hyperbolic with this because we're talking about housing for people and people's lives, right? We need some more housing. Okay. So to get back to Macy's.
What do you think a market rate rent is? What 2,500, 2,000? What would you say? 1,750?
Like a 2-bedroom house would be 2,500.
2,500.
And that would be, people would feel lucky for that.
And is that what you would envisage for Macy's? That there would be units available at Macy's for 2,500?
I would hope
2
so.
bedrooms?
I think it depends. I like the idea of efficiency studios too. You know, for people just graduating from college, you know, smaller units where retiring couples want to live downtown. They love it, being able to walk around to the theater and that kind of thing. I was at a party and I asked these 2 architects, what would we do to Macy's to make it housing? And they thought about it, and both of them said at the same time, you punch a hole in it, you make an atrium to bring air and light in there, and then you design around it. Architects are going to love turning downtown stores. Many of them are designed like bowling alleys, you know, they're real long. How do you make it into housing? But you're from San Francisco, right? So they have stores on the bottom and walk up to an apartment on the top. And State Street is already zoned for mixed use. So we don't even have to change the zoning.
Isn't the biggest problem, though, aggressive panhandling down there? You don't think it's a very big scale of 1 to 10? You would say it's about
I do not give them any money. I don't, and I tell everybody else, if you quit giving them money, they wouldn't be panhandling. You know, we have a restorative policing program. We have a new public works, the gray shirts, and they have a badge. They look authoritative and law enforcement like, and they
no weapons though.
And they help people move along. They call the police when there's some crime happening. We have a lot of programs downtown to contain the street people.
Here's my issue with homelessness. I think it's mislabeled as a housing problem. You say homeless, we have to have more housing. I've been to a number of seminars and so on, and I'm sure you have. About 20% of the homeless population uses about 80% of the resources that are devoted to it, and that is mental illness, addiction,
Yes, sir.
those kinds of issues, even some health issues, vets, so on and so forth. Why are we calling it homelessness when it's not a housing? That's not really the answer, isn't it? Is it?
It's a huge humanitarian problem in the city of Santa Barbara. Thank God homeless veterans have more resources, and Donald Trump hasn't cut that money yet. Thank God. A little bit of CDBG that he's cut. But you're right. It's a diverse population of people on the street. Women who've been abused by their husbands, and they and their kids are on the street. Substance abusers. So this is why we have a whole array of ways to address homelessness. We have the law enforcement aspect. We have safe parking where people can live in their cars and park at night and be safe. Transition house takes in families. But I have to respectfully disagree with you, Jerry. If we had more affordable units, if we had more apartments, homeless people would move into them. There's no place for them to move into.
All right. The last question on State Street. Aren't we barking up the wrong tree when we talk about retail? I mean, retail's finished, isn't it? With Amazon and people could just stay home and order things online. Shouldn't we be looking at tech or some other sector of the economy rather than retail?
Well, since I have a little TV time, I'm going to tell your viewers, please shop within the city limits if you can, right? Don't buy online if you can go find it, because then we get our sales tax revenue. Thank you, folks. Second, the downtown organizations, downtown Santa Barbara, they did a study and they found that some retail businesses are doing great. So women's apparel, I don't buy anything unless I can try it on, or my shoes. Never buy a pair of shoes unless I can try them on. So there's certain areas where it'll work. Amazon, you can order it online and then go pick it up at the storefront. Mm-hmm. So that works as well. My sister works at Bed Bath & Beyond, and they have wedding registries there. And so there's ways to combine online and brick and mortar.
All right. One word, Target. Okay, but believe me, that'll
Target.
save everything. All right, let's talk about the sales tax, which you just mentioned. There's going to be a proposal on the ballot, along with you in the mayor's race, to increase the sales tax 1 cent. Are you going to be urging voters loudly to support that?
Well, Jerry, I'm never loud, first of all.
I meant in a metaphoric sense.
Right. So, the city we did kind of a road show telling people about this possibility and asking them what they valued. And people value smooth roads and well-maintained infrastructure. And they know that our buildings are getting older. People also, during this process, we did polling, and then we went out to community public meetings. And people want a new police station. Our police station is seismically unsafe. Okay, so people are being given the choice to vote for this sales tax initiative, and I support that. We're being responsive to what people told us.
No, well, my question is really, how out front are you going to be on it? Are you just going to say, and vote for the sales tax too, or do you really think that this is a crucial priority?
I'm a voter. We all have a choice, and I'll be voting yes.
How are you going to guarantee that the money, the new revenue from the 1 cent sales tax is going to go for infrastructure and public works? Because it doesn't say that. It doesn't. There's no guarantee, is there?
See, this is like the crazy, hard-bitten journalist in you coming out. A good question. So the staff has come up with an auditing process. So we'll audit how we spend the money, and we're putting together a residents advisory committee to oversee the whole thing. Perfect.
So you're guaranteeing it's all going for infrastructure. Here and now, you promise.
As long as I'm on the council, I will make sure it's spent the right way. Absolutely.
Let me ask you about another issue. Santa Barbara's annual financial report, 2016 report, shows the city has an unfunded liability for pensions of about $250 million. And of course, shows increasing contributions in the millions over the next couple of years. Now, there have been modest attempts, I will stipulate, in recent years to deal with it, but this unfunded liability remains a huge problem. I mean, it's possible this could begin to eat up most of the city budget down the road. What are you going to do as mayor to fix that?
We talk a lot about our pension system, and fiscal responsibility, Jerry, is one of the most important aspects of making budget and policy decisions at the city. You mentioned reform, and I thought Jerry Brown had so much courage to legislate pension reform. So we really have two systems. We have the classic employees who are under the old system and the new ones, and their pension benefits.
Two-tier system.
Two-tier system, and the second tier, their pension benefits are way less generous. And so over time, it'll even out. And we're making people pay more into their retirement.
You think, if I just want to be sure I'm hearing what you're saying. So you think the current system, the current pension system is going to be net zero in the future without taking any additional action?
No. The liability is there, and we need to address it. We need to be careful about giving more salary and benefits, which increase the pension. So.
All right, one last question. We're running out of time. I wish we had all day to do this, but this is really a yes or no. I want to ask you about Senate Bill 54 by Senate Leader Kevin De Leon, the so-called sanctuary state. Sheriff Bill Brown had this to say about it. As written, this bill protects criminals and jeopardizes public safety. It provides sanctuaries to criminals. You for it or against it?
Well, I certainly do not believe in protecting people who have committed crimes, especially violent crimes. So no, that aspect is not appealing to me. The city of Santa Barbara basically functions as a safe city for our undocumenteds. You know, the Chamber of Commerce recognizes that undocumented labor force is a big part of our economy. And I'm always going to be sensitive to the people who live and work here, Jerry.
So you're against Senate Bill 54, the sanctuary state?
No, I support it.
Oh, you do support it?
But I want it to be sure that it's not letting criminals off the hook.
All right. Well, thank you very much to our guest today, Cathy Murillo, and thanks to all our loyal viewers for checking in online or TVSB's Channel 17. To watch the complete set of interviews with mayoral candidates, check out our new website, newsmakerswithjerryroberts.com, and look for the return of our Newsmakers panel of journalists starting September 7th. Thanks today to our director, JP Montalvo, our marketing director, Maggie Mabuchi, Mark Melson, Debbie DeRoos, and Paloma Lamb. Our legal advisors, Dewey Cheatham and Howe, and as always, our senior, high-ranking, all-powerful chief executive producer, Hap Freund. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.